Welcome back to Infinite Business Dynamics, where we turn ambitious strategies into real, measurable, and sustained results. Today we're diving deep into Layer 5, Performance Measurement Architecture. This is the critical bridge that takes everything we've built so far, your identity, direction, analysis, and winning choices, and transforms them from powerful ideas into trackable, provable reality. On screen right now, you see the Performance Cascade, the clean, logical flow that makes strategy measurable at every level. From goals that set your North Star, through objectives that lock in binding commitments, to KPIs that show the signals that actually matter, then outcomes delivering short-term proof, impact building long-term competitive strength, and finally, benefits realization, making sure the value doesn't just appear, it sticks. Everything traces back to your strategic choices. No drift, no vanity metrics, just undeniable progress. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through exactly how the world's best organizations, private sector giants, and top public institutions alike, use this cascade to turn intent into proof. Stick around till the end for a quick challenge that could expose the biggest distraction in your own organization. Let's get started.
Have you ever been part of a team with a brilliant strategy only to watch it just fizzle out? Because nobody could really agree on what winning actually looked like? Well, that's exactly what we're tackling today. We are building the bridge between those ambitious plans and provable, trackable progress. We're talking about performance measurement architecture. And by the end of this, you'll have a clear framework to turn your strategy into a reality you can actually see. This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. So many people think of measurement as just, boring admin work. That is a trap. It is the ultimate reality check for your strategy. Without it, you are flying blind, and even your best ideas are really just hopeful guesses. This is where your grand vision meets the cold, hard proof.
Okay, so let's start with the cost. What happens when our performance measurement is weak or just plain wrong? It's a painful place many of us have been, right? A world of wasted effort, confusing signals, and so many missed opportunities.
Yeah, on one side, you've got that weak measurement. Think about teams chasing vanity metrics. Numbers that look impressive but don't actually move the business forward, like website clicks that never ever convert. It leads to slow reactions and, honestly, broken promises. But on the flip side, a strong performance design, it's a total game changer. It locks everyone into the core logic of the strategy, it gives you fast, honest feedback, and it delivers undeniable proof that you're actually winning. So, how do we build that strong system? We're going to use a really powerful framework for this, and it's called the Performance Cascade. I want you to think of it as your blueprint, the step-by-step guide for turning that high-level strategy into tangible, on-the-ground results. And here it is, the cascade in action. You can see how it flows, right? It goes logically from the big, broad idea down to the nitty-gritty details. We start with our inspiring goals, then we nail them down with specific objectives. We track our progress with the right KPIs, measure the immediate outcomes of our work, and then see how those accumulate into long-term impact. And finally, we lock in all those gains through something called benefits realization. We're going to break this all down, but here's the golden rule. Every single step has to connect directly back to your core strategy, no exceptions.
All right, let's dive into the first half of this cascade. This whole part is about setting the right signals from the very beginning. It's about defining precisely what success looks like and figuring out how we're going to measure the journey to get there.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with your goals. This is your North Star. It's that big, inspiring idea of what you're trying to achieve. And notice, it's not about numbers just yet. It's about painting a really clear picture of what winning feels like, of what it looks like, and making sure it's rooted in your organization's unique vision. So, for example, a goal isn't just be the best. It's something much richer, like lead the industry in customer trust. Or maybe it's achieve profitable scale with a minimal environmental footprint. See how these are ambitious? They get people fired up, but they're also grounded in what your company is actually all about.
Okay, next up, we take those inspiring goals and we forge them into what I call binding promises. These are your objectives. And to do this, we use the SMARTER framework. That means making them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But also, and this is key, ensuring they're continuously evaluated and reviewed. This step is so critical. It's where that lofty ambition gets hammered into real-world accountability.
Here is a perfect example. We're not just saying, let's grow revenue. We're saying, increase recurring revenue to 45% of total by December 2027. Do you see how specific that is? It has a crystal clear target, it's got a deadline, and it's super easy to measure. This is how a big dream gets converted into something the team can work on every single day. And now we get to KPIs, your strategic control panel. Now look, these are not just any old numbers you can track. KPIs are the select few, the really high-impact signals that tell you if your core strategy is actually working. If you're gonna obsess over anything, obsess over these.
And it's so crucial to get this. There are two types of KPIs. Leading indicators are like looking through the telescope. They're predictive, they give you a glimpse of what's coming down the road. Lagging indicators, on the other hand, are like checking the rearview mirror. They confirm where you've been and the results you've already delivered. A truly strong strategy needs both. You need that view of the road ahead, but you also need to know for sure what ground you've already covered. And here is a hard truth, a golden rule. You should have no more than 5 to 7 truly strategic KPIs. That's it. You have to be absolutely ruthless here. Cut the vanity metrics, get rid of the old reports nobody even reads. For every single metric, you have to ask yourself, does this number actually help me make a better decision about our strategy? If the answer is no, get rid of it. So, we've set our signals. Now we get to shift to the second half of the cascade. And honestly, this is the payoff. This is where we stop just measuring our plan and we start measuring our impact. It is all about proving the value that we are actually creating in the world. Outcomes are your first signs of life. They're that hard evidence that your actions are actually having an effect. Think of these as the short-term wins you can see and feel, like a measurable drop in customer churn this quarter. They answer that vital, immediate question, is what we're doing right now, is it actually working? Now, when those short-term outcomes start to pile up, when they sustain over time, they create impact. An impact isn't just a blip on a quarterly chart. It is a fundamental, long-term shift in your competitive position. This is the ultimate scorecard for your strategy. It answers the biggest question of all. Are we genuinely building a stronger, more resilient company for the future?
So you see, impact isn't just about hitting a quarterly target. It's about building a fortress. It looks like achieving defensible market leadership. It's creating a brand so strong you actually gain pricing power. Or maybe it's developing a culture where disciplined, smart innovation is just how you operate. These are the kinds of changes that last.
And now for the final, crucial piece of this entire puzzle, benefits realization. Think of this as the safety net that catches all the value you've created. I mean, how many times have we seen this? A project ends, the team moves on, and all those positive changes just slowly fade away. This step is about actively managing those benefits, mapping them out up front, tracking them long after the launch party is over, and making absolutely sure they stick. This is how you prove a true long-term return on that strategic investment. So when you pull this all together, when you lock it all in, what do you have? The Performance Cascade becomes the engine. It's the machine that turns your strategic intent into undeniable proof. It is the complete journey, from a great idea all the way to a proven result. It's also really important to see where this fits in the bigger strategic picture. Performance measurement isn't where you start your strategy. It's the final, critical layer that makes it all real. It comes after you've defined your identity, set your direction, done your analysis, and made your hard choices. This performance architecture is what makes all that earlier, brilliant strategic work tangible. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about it right now. What is the one metric your organization obsesses over that might actually be a complete distraction from your real strategy? Because identifying that one vanity metric, that's the first step toward building a system that doesn't just measure activity, but one that truly, actually drives success.
Learning reinforcement.
Many organizations define ambitious strategic intents in the boardroom, but lack a system to translate those choices into a measurable reality on the ground. Measurement is frequently treated as an administrative requirement, a series of reporting tasks performed after the fact, rather than a structural necessity for execution. This lack of structure leads to teams chasing metrics that don't influence the strategy. Decisions are delayed because leadership cannot see which tactics are actually effective. When strategic promises fail to result in visible market progress, stakeholders lose confidence in the organization's ability to execute. Without a rigid measurement architecture, strategy remains separated from the daily activities of the workforce, making it impossible to verify if the organization is actually winning. Effective measurement design serves as the physical mechanism that locks every operational team to the strategic logic established by leadership. The Performance Cascade is a 6-tier hierarchy designed to maintain alignment across every level of the company. By connecting high-level strategy to ground-level execution, this structure provides a logical path for tracking progress from qualitative ambition to concrete proof. Success in this system requires that every metric at the bottom of the stack traces directly back to the strategic choices made at the top. Measurement provides the real-time feedback required to confirm that strategic assumptions remain valid while they are being executed. Layer 1 consists of goals. These are broad statements of qualitative direction that define what winning looks like based on the company's vision. A goal might be to lead the industry in customer trust, or to achieve profitable scale while minimizing the company's environmental footprint. While goals provide inspiration, they are too broad to guide daily operations. They require translation into specific, manageable commitments. Layer 2, objectives, converts high-level ambition into a binding promise. Organizations use the SMARTer framework to ensure these objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, evaluated, and reviewed. An objective must include a quantified threshold. For example, instead of a vague desire for growth, an objective would specify increasing recurring revenue to 45% of the total by a set date. These first two layers bridge the gap between long-term aspiration and immediate accountable action. Layer 3 involves key performance indicators, or KPIs. These specific signals drive decisions, selected from broader organizational data. Leading signals act as predictive indicators, like pipeline velocity forecasting future revenue. Lagging signals are confirmatory, like market share or customer lifetime value. To maintain organizational focus, a company should track a maximum of 5 to 7 truly strategic KPIs. A common error is assuming that more data leads to better strategy. This often results in vanity metrics, numbers that appear positive but do not actually inform strategic decisions. Teams must identify and eliminate any metric or legacy report that does not directly support the winning logic defined in the strategy. If a KPI does not provide information needed to achieve Layer 2 objectives, tracking it distracts the organization from its primary goals. Layer 4 focuses on outcomes. These are the measurable changes produced by the organization's tactical execution efforts. Because they are tracked monthly or quarterly, outcomes provide an immediate way to evaluate if tactics are moving the organization toward its objectives. Examples of outcomes include a 25% reduction in customer churn or a 40% improvement in time to market for new features. Outcomes allow leadership to answer the critical operational question: are current projects effectively shifting the metrics that matter? Achieving these targets provides the first measurable evidence that ground-level work is successfully supporting the high-level strategy. Layer 5, impact, tracks how short-term outcomes accumulate into permanent shifts in the company's competitive position. While outcomes are often tied to specific projects, impact reflects long-term systemic change in how the company operates and competes. Examples of impact include establishing defensible market leadership or building brand premium that allows for sustained pricing power. This layer measures whether the organization has genuinely strengthened its edge within its ecosystem over time. Even when impact is achieved, the value generated can be lost if there is no structural system to maintain it. This is the role of Layer 6, benefits realization. This governance discipline ensures that strategic gains are sustained long after a project is completed. It involves identifying expected benefits before a project begins and continuing to track those benefits long after the project has been delivered. This layer relies on change management to solidify new behaviors and report the true strategic return on investment to the leadership team. Without this final layer, the value created in the previous tiers often leaks away as the organization fails to maintain the new operational standards required to keep the outcomes active. When fully constructed, the Performance Cascade acts as a single structural unit. Every layer is interdependent, ensuring alignment from goals to sustained benefits. This creates a feedback loop where operational data flows upward to inform strategy, and strategic intent flows downward to guide daily work. If any layer fails to trace back to the one above it, the system loses alignment and the strategy becomes difficult to execute. This architecture allows an organization to move beyond intuition, relying on trackable data to verify progress. Success is not just about meeting individual KPIs. It requires all 6 layers of the cascade functioning as an integrated system. This cascade represents layer 5 of the strategic operating system. It defines measurable intent, following the work done in identity, direction, analysis, and choice. Next, the system moves to layer 6, governance and allocation, where the organization decides how to fund and resource this measurable intent. Before moving forward, evaluate the metrics currently used in your own organization. Identify one specific vanity metric your company currently tracks that does not actually inform your strategy. Share that metric in the comments below. Exposing these distractions is the first step toward building a functional performance architecture.
Up next, some working slides for visual reference, presented without narration. Now, let's move from framework to reality.
All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about something that's, well, absolutely critical for any organization: performance measurement. This is the moment your big, ambitious strategy stops being just words on a slide and actually becomes reality, something you can track, something you can prove. You know, if you've ever been part of a team that sets these huge goals but never really knows if it's winning or losing, this is for you.
So here's the plan. First, we're going to talk about the very real, very high cost of having vague goals. Then, I'll introduce a really powerful framework to fix that. It's called the Performance Cascade. And we're not just going to talk theory, we'll see it in action with two incredible case studies, one from a massive global company and another from a world-class public service. And then, we'll wrap it all up with principles you can actually use.
Okay, first things first. We have to understand the damage that can be done when you get this wrong. Because when your metrics are out of whack, they don't just sit there doing nothing. No, they can actively drag down and sink a perfectly good strategy. So let me just ask you this, straight up. Is your organization's strategy a real plan, or is it kind of just a wish? Because honestly, without the right way to measure it, even the most brilliant strategy in the world is really just wishful thinking. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. You've got two roads your organization can go down. On the left, with weak measurement, it's chaos. People are working hard, for sure, but they're chasing all the wrong things. You don't realize you're off course until it's way too late, and pretty soon, nobody trusts the plan anymore. But look at the right. With a strong performance design, you get total clarity. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is locked onto what it actually takes to win. You get these fast feedback loops so you can adjust on the fly. And best of all, you have cold, hard proof that you're making progress. The takeaway here is huge. Measurement isn't some boring admin task. It's the ultimate reality check for your strategy. So, How do we get on that right-hand path? The answer is a super clean, really logical framework. It's called the Performance Cascade. Think of it as a 6-level system designed to connect your biggest, boldest ambitions directly to tangible, measurable results.
And here are the 6 levels. See how it flows? It starts broad with your qualitative goals. Then it gets really specific with smarter objectives. You've probably heard of SMART, but this adds evaluated and reviewed, which is crucial. Then you identify your key performance indicators, your KPIs, both leading and lagging signals. From there, you track your short-term outcomes, measure the long-term impact, and finally, you lock in all that value with benefits realization. Now here's the magic trick. Every single step in this chain has to trace directly back to your core strategy. If it doesn't belong, period.
Let's zoom in on KPIs for a second, because this is where so many organizations get completely lost. KPIs are not just random numbers you track. They are a very select, very small group of high-leverage indicators. You need a healthy mix. Leading indicators that kind of predict the future, and lagging ones that confirm what's already happened. And here is the golden rule. Please remember this. You want a maximum of 5 to 7 truly strategic KPIs. It is time to declare war on vanity metrics, those numbers that make you look busy but don't actually help you make a single smart decision.
All right, enough theory. Theory's great, but let's see how this thing actually performs out in the wild. Our first case study is Resilient Link Global. We're talking a Fortune 500 powerhouse, and they were staring down a massive, high-stakes crisis in their supply chain. So who is this company? Resilient Link is a major player in global supply chains. And a while back, they made a really tough, really important strategic choice. They decided they weren't going to compete on being the cheapest option anymore. Instead, they were going to win by offering the most resilient and sustainable supply chain leadership on the planet. But here's the thing. Before they fixed their measurement system, that big strategic choice was just talk. Internally, they were still measuring and rewarding the old behavior, chasing the cheapest possible suppliers. And the result? It was a catastrophe. A 9-week halt in production that cost them $420 million. Let that sink in. Nearly $500 million in lost revenue. What a painful, expensive lesson. And this is how they fixed it. This is where the transformation really comes to life. They implemented the Cascade. Suddenly, their new KPIs were perfectly aligned with their actual strategy. Leading indicators, like a supplier resilience score, became king. And you see that one at the bottom? They finally killed that classic vanity metric, number of purchase orders issued. Why? Because it tells you absolutely nothing about resilience or sustainability or value. It just tells you how busy you are. So, did it work? Oh yeah, it worked. The short-term results came in fast and they were powerful. A 28% drop in supply disruptions, they were onboarding new suppliers 35% faster, and a 22% jump in their ethical sourcing compliance. This was the hard data, the proof that the new focus was actually working. But here's the mic drop moment. The ultimate proof is in the long-term value. By tracking this religiously, they were able to prove a 4.8 times return on investment for their technology platform. That's not just a good number. For every dollar they invested, they got nearly $5 back. That is undeniable proof that this new way of measuring performance had become a massive competitive weapon for them.
Okay, well, you might be thinking, sure, that's great for a giant for-profit company, but what about other types of organizations? Well, to prove this framework is universal, we're going to pivot completely, from the private sector to one of the most respected public institutions in the entire world.
We're talking about the Singapore Public Service. This isn't just any government body. It is consistently ranked #1 in the world for effectiveness. And their winning logic, their strategy, is crystal clear. Deliver world-class, citizen-focused public value, and do it with absolutely zero tolerance for waste.
But even the best of the best can have blind spots. And before they adopted this kind of thinking, they had a measurement problem. Different government agencies were stuck in their own silos, and they were all chasing internal metrics based on activity. How many forms they processed, how many cases they opened. This created slow service and really frustrated citizens, even though a ton of money was being spent. The activity was high, but the actual public value just wasn't there.
So what did they do? They completely transformed their KPIs. They stopped measuring how busy they were on the inside and started measuring what actually mattered to the citizens on the outside. Leading indicators suddenly became things like digital adoption rate,
Lagging indicators focused on the all-important citizen satisfaction score. And yep, just like Resilient Link, they found and killed a huge vanity metric, total number of transactions processed. Who cares how many transactions there are if nobody's happy with the service? And the outcomes for the public were just fantastic. Think about what this feels like as a citizen. Key services like getting a permit or a grant were suddenly 37% faster. Projects that require different agencies to work together were delivered 31% quicker. And there was a massive 26% jump in people using the much more convenient digital self-service options. These are real improvements in people's lives.
The financial return was just as stunning. For every single dollar they invested in these new performance systems and digital platforms, they delivered $4.20 in public value and savings. I mean, that's just incredible fiscal discipline, and it shows the raw power of a truly focused performance system.
So let's bring this all home. We've seen the theory. We've seen two completely different but equally powerful examples. Now let's just boil it down to the universal principles that make this whole thing work. Anywhere.
Look at this side by side. It's just brilliant. Two totally different worlds, private sector, public sector, but they followed the exact same core principles. Number one, logic alignment. They both made sure every single KPI traced directly back to their unique strategy. Number two, feedback loops. They both replaced useless old metrics with ones that actually measured what mattered. Risk and sustainability for Resilient Link, citizen satisfaction and efficiency for Singapore. And number three, value capture. They were both rigorous about tracking the value they created, proving an absolutely incredible ROI. The context changes, but the principles for success are identical.
So, I want to leave you with a challenge, a question to take back to your team. What is the one metric that your organization is obsessed with? That, if you're being really honest, actually distracts you from your real strategy? What is your vanity metric? Because finding it and having the courage to call it out is the very first step to building a performance architecture that truly measures what it takes to win.